Steve Schmidt, Karine mentioned Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. They were on the receiving ends today of attacks from Donald Trump after, again, about 15 hours earlier, Donald Trump admonishing Yamiche to, quote, be nice. So the idea that this has changed him in any way, shape, or form is magical wishful thinking.
Oh, of course it is. Look, it's been said for a long time that the presidency, what it does is it elevates or it exaggerates your character. And so we see all of Donald Trump's character deficiencies playing out in a magnified sense in the middle of this crisis. And what you see is someone who is clearly interested in himself, in his reelection, and the lack of discipline, the lack of focus. Just extraordinary to see the American president attacking political foes, to attacking the senior Democrat in the House, to attacking governors who are on the line in the states. It's a ship of fools being run from that White House in a deadly moment. And we remember now the consequences of elections. And we have another election. And people will say, and I think incorrectly, that this isn't a moment for politics. It's not a moment for politicization where people use the virus to elevate themselves in our politics, but it's certainly a moment for politics because we understand the deadly consequences of having people that are incompetent, that are ignorant, that are completely unprepared for decision making. We see his vacillations. We see the misinformation. We see the deadly missteps accumulating now for a month and a half, and the consequence will be a lot more dead Americans than there otherwise would be. And when we look at the casualty numbers from coronavirus on the right of the screen, 2874, we're very quickly approaching now the casualty numbers that will exceed the 9/11 totals as we get up to around that 3,000 number. And then very quickly, we'll see all of the totals that exceed the total casualties for the war in Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 20 years. We'll see that. And when we talk about numbers of 100,000, 200,000, it's important to remember we lost 58,000 men in the Vietnam War. We lost 400,000 Americans in the Second World War. So the scale of the tragedy that we're in the front edge of is really hard to overstate. This is a historic moment. This is the biggest moment that's occurred in this generation. And the government has shown itself completely outmatched by this crisis where we needed bigness. We got smallness across the board. And the president, I'm sure later today, will once again demonstrate that he's simply not up to this at a moral level, at a mental level, and at a basic competency level.
Steve and Karine are sticking around after the break, checking in on